mas. The reason why I say no mas in response to the critics of circumcision is as follows. We who circumcise in the Jewish community believe that this is a commandment from God, and it's found in the Torah. The ones who are arguing against us say God could never say that. Well, it says that in the Torah. So if you don't believe in the Torah, then that's your opinion. If we believe in the Torah, we're obligated to do so. It's not an argument. If I believe my father said something, and you say my father never said it, but I know my father said it, there's no argument here. I do what my father tells me to do. And God is the owner of all bodies, including Jewish babies, and therefore we circumcise them. Now, some of you say, but what's the ethical position? God is the basis for ethics. So I get an answer, logic. Where was logic in 1933 to 1945? Where's logic among the communists? Where's logic among the majority of tyrants in this entire world? Logic doesn't cause ethics. Ethics comes from certain ingrained standards that come from, believe it or not, religion. The reason why there's ethical behavior in the Western world is because you have a tradition of the Judeo-Christian ethic. You have the remnant of that. You say you believe in the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have others do unto you. That's found in the Torah, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. That's found in the Bible in countless places. That's the basis of the ethics that you supposedly believe in. But that ethic has no continuity without a belief in a supreme being. And if you believe in a supreme being, the supreme being said so in the Torah. Then you start arguing biblical criticism. We've all gone down that path. There's nothing to argue about. I believe in the Torah was given by God, and therefore there's nothing to discuss. As for ethics, ethics without God truly has no ultimate lasting basis. Look at what happened to Germany in before World War II. It was the most advanced, cultured nation in the world. More culture than the United States. More culture than England or France. And yet they did such horrible things. Why? Because the ethics were not based on belief. The ethics were based upon ideas that people had. So you give them another set of ideas. You go ahead and give them some opiate. You go ahead and promise them that the trains will come on time better. This is what happens. People are very frail and easily bribed unless you have an ethic that you believe comes from God, and God doesn't take bribes. And so the ethic still remains, whether or not you're bribed or not. But let's go back to the circumcision business. There's a fellow who went ahead and he started saying, well, the WHO study indicated about a 60% or 70% advantage for those who were circumcised over uncircumcised in terms of the spreading of AIDS. But there was an additional 50% danger to females who received the HIV from a circumcised male. That's a bald-faced lie. I looked at the study. The study says that there was no perceivable difference between the two if they both infected. There's a reason for it. The reason why circumcision works in preventing AIDS or STDs is because the member is cleaner. If you have AIDS, then it's internally within you. It's not outside of you. And so there's no difference between a circumcised and uncircumcised person. And the reason why it's not as effective in homosexual reactions, well, we have a belief as to why, but besides that belief, in that type of sex, there's a lot of bleeding, there's a lot of interaction between body fluids, more so than in normal sex, and that's why there would be no perceivable difference between circumcised and uncircumcised men. Of course, there's a religious aspect. I don't care to respond on that, but that's the reason for the basis of the disparity in the studies. Furthermore, you poo-poo all of the various things that circumcision does help in it. Circumcision does help reduce the HPV, it's called the papillo something or other virus, the human papillovirus, which is significantly different among circumcised men than uncircumcised men. There was 26 different studies indicating less sexually transmitted diseases among circumcised men than uncircumcised men. And there are studies that go against that. But none of the studies say that circumcision helps to spread STDs. So you have 26 studies that indicated less STDs, less syphilis, less of the other problems, and then you have some studies indicating there's no difference. There's also significant difference between urinary tract infections between circumcised children and uncircumcised children. There's also a significant difference in penile cancer between people who are circumcised and uncircumcised. Of course, penile cancer is very rare. Urinary tract infections are rare and can be dealt with topical treatments. That's all true. But the point is that it's less by circumcision. Why do you think it's less? It's less because there's less place for bacteria and other things to grow in, because the glands happen to be cleaner. And in fact, I want to tell you something, that study which went ahead, it's a study by Metcalf, Quotling, Gardner, and Oster, saying that as far as hygiene is concerned, as long as you teach young boys proper hygiene, as long as you teach young boys proper hygiene, that will obviate the need for preventive circumcision. What does proper hygiene mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means to scrub it. And I want to tell you that this is insanity, because you have half the world without running water. And since this half the world is without running water, how are they going to scrub it? With what? With what soap? In what basin? They have filthy water. How are they going to... But circumcision does help in those cases. So I want to just sum up. The anti-circs are very shrill and claim that there's no basis, no need for it, because the benefits do not outweigh the costs, because there are costs involved, there are possible dangers involved, and so on and so forth, and they rail all about it. The truth of the matter is that very few deaths through circumcision. They've had numerous studies, and in the end, you see that it is counterbalanced by tremendous benefits in human health and male health in various areas, whether it's in AIDS, whether it's in cancer, whether it's STDs, whether it's in simple hygiene. Circumcised member is cleaner, and therefore God's commandment makes perfect sense, even in the physical world. However, we do it because it says so in the Torah, and I'm not arguing anymore because it's meaningless, it's pointless. I read from the same studies you're reading from. I see that the number of studies are weighted in favor of circumcision. However, the question is whether the costs benefit warrants it. A different question. None of the studies indicate a reason, a medical reason, not to accept for the possibility of having a shlak as a moil. So get yourself a good moil, a good circumciser who's religious, and you won't have any problems. And for those of you who are not Jewish, not from the seed of Abraham, you don't have to circumcise. I'm not arguing with you. But don't go ahead and put all kinds of stuff. Oh, you destroy, in all of the studies that deal with this reduction of sensitivity have counter studies completely disregarding them. And in the end, even when there is an acceptance of the idea that a foreskin has more sensitivity, there are counterweights in terms of premature ejaculation and so on that indicates that there's absolutely no difference. In fact, some of the studies indicate a more satisfied sexual life for those who are circumcised than those who are uncircumcised. And the differences are meaningless. That is not the purpose of circumcision. The purpose of circumcision, even though the great teacher, our great teacher, my great Rebbe, Maimonides, says that it's meant to weaken the sexual urge, it means to do so spiritually. As I've explained in my videos, it's not meant really to be a physical damage to the person's sexuality or in any other way. In fact, it makes the person healthier. And that's been borne out by study after study. And you want to argue with that, fine, but we're not discussing it anymore.